Okay, so let's be honest. Does it ever feel like your attention is being hijacked by a million different things at once? If you're nodding, you are definitely not alone. In this world of endless pings and notifications, just being able to concentrate feels like a superpower. But here's the secret. It's not some magic power you're born with. It's something you build.
Welcome to Tiny Drafts, a space for high potential, unfinished people. Now, to kick things off, I want to ask you a pretty direct question. Just think about it for a second. How much of your day is spent with real, actual intention, where you decide ahead of time what you're going to do and where your attention will go? For most of us, if we're being real, the answer is probably not that much. And that lack of intention? Well, that leads us straight into what we can call the autopilot problem. Yeah, see, most of us are living in what you could call autopilot mode. An email from your boss pops up, and boom, you instinctively stop what you're doing to answer it. A social media notification appears, and you just have to check it, right? We're not actually choosing what to do, we're just reacting. We've kind of handed over the keys to our most valuable resource, our attention, to whatever trigger yells the loudest. So, if that's the problem, where on earth does the solution come from? Well, the answer is actually pretty surprising. Turns out we all started learning this skill way back when we were kids, and in a place you would probably never expect. Believe it or not, it's television. I know, sounds weird, right? But a study from way back in 1981 about how kids process TV shows shows us something really fascinating about how our attention actually develops. It's not just about staring at a screen, it's about learning how to pay attention. What the research found was this really clear shift. When we're really little, our attention gets grabbed by whatever is flashy and loud and exciting. But as we get older, our brains develop this amazing ability to follow more complex things, like a story's plot or the dialogue. We learn to actively process the meaning of what we're seeing, not just react to the bright colors. In other words, focus is a skill we literally train over time. So let's just break this down. On one side, you've got the stuff that just attracts our attention. The loud noises, the fast edits, all the sensory shiny objects. But on the other side, you have what actually sustains our attention, the story, the meaning, the information we have to actively process. The whole journey to adult focus is moving from being captured by the first column to consciously choosing to engage with the second. Okay, so how do we take that idea and actually apply it as adults? Well, a great way to think about it is that our attention has two really powerful and totally complementary modes. First up, you've got hyperfocus. This is that in-the-zone feeling. It's that deep, immersive state of concentration where you're so absorbed in what you're doing that the rest of the world just kind of melts away. This is where your best, most meaningful work gets done. But, and this is a big but, you can't be in hyperfocus all the time. Its partner is what's called scatterfocus. This is when you intentionally let your mind just wander. Maybe you're on a walk or in the shower or just staring out the window. It feels like you're not doing anything, but your brain is actually going nuts in the background, connecting ideas, recharging, and solving problems. It's where creativity gets sparked. And here is the absolute key. The goal is not to force yourself into hyperfocus 24/7. Seriously, that is a one-way ticket to burnout. Real, sustainable productivity comes from building an intentional rhythm between that deep, focused work and that deliberate, restful mind wandering. Okay, so how do we actually build that rhythm? Let's get practical and look at the blueprint for getting into a state of hyperfocus whenever you want. It's a pretty simple 4-step process, but the order is everything. First, you choose your target. You decide what actually matters. Second, you clear the decks. Get rid of all those distractions. Third, you do the work. You focus. And fourth, and this is the part that builds the muscle, you just gently bring your attention back. Over and over again, every time it wanders off. Out of all those steps, the whole game is won or lost right here, in step 1. Intention must always precede attention. Before you even think about focusing, you have to decide what is worthy of your focus in the first place. Without that deliberate choice, you're just going to fall right back into autopilot, reacting to whatever shiny object is in front of you. Now, all of this sounds great in theory, right? But we all know the absolute hardest part is just getting started. So what's the simplest, tiniest way to break through that initial wall of resistance? Let's start by reframing the problem. Procrastination isn't some deep character flaw. It's not about being lazy. It's really just about hesitation, that tiny moment of resistance where your brain goes, ugh, this is too big, or I'll deal with this later. The trick is to make the first step so ridiculously small that there's nothing to hesitate about. And that is where the famous 2-minute rule comes in. The idea is so simple. Whatever it is you have to do, just commit to doing it for only 2 minutes. That's it. Don't worry about finishing. Don't worry about making it perfect. Just start. Open the document. Write one sentence. Put on your running shoes. The bar is so low, you can't help but step over it. Because here's the truth. You almost never feel ready to tackle the big, important stuff. But you can always start for 2 minutes. And breaking through that initial friction, that emotional barrier, well, that's often all it takes to get the momentum going. So remember, focus isn't something you just magically find. It's an action you take, and it all starts with that first tiny step. This was Tiny Drafts.